30,000, in which says available housing bubble forces foreclosures and the obligations have reopened for stimulus checks, and we should probably consider applying now. A bubble in economic terms in a situation where a financial asset or an individual stock or an entire market or sector exists is fundamental value by a large margin. Sounds familiar in today's stimulus package update as well as stimulus check update video. We will discuss the housing bubble and its negative effect on today's market. We also have news on applications reopened for stimulus checks that have already sent out millions, even with more to come. Let's go ahead and get started. In 2021, housing prices shot up by a whopping 18.8%. Now, just to give you guys some perspective, this is the market's largest gain in the last 34 years, followed by the 2020 10.4% increase. This effect has therefore many Americans who were set to achieving their American dream by buying their first homes and has only helped in setting off more foreclosures. Just 2 months ago, in March, active foreclosures increased by more than 7,000, the first year-over-year increase in over a decade. About 78,000 U.S. properties had a foreclosure filing during the first quarter of the year compared to the previous quarter. It's up about 39%. Homeowners are struggling to pay their mortgages, while renters are pinching just to try to keep a roof over their heads as rent prices are also soaring across the country. The rent has increased by at least 20%, forcing many Americans to move or be homeless due to the landlord's demand for higher rent. They blame rising property taxes and mortgage rates for some of the rent change. The housing bubble is suddenly growing. Now, if that happens, the major correction in the housing market will sink prices, and buyers could most probably owe more on their home loan than what property is worth. According to S&P Global, 88% of the US housing market is overvalued. Now, I'm just gonna let that number sink in just for a second. This overvaluing trend in the housing market has excluded millions of Americans from owning a home. Now, with the housing market as hot as it is, it's like an ice bucket challenge versus the bubble. One key issue is that unlike other items, you can't just create supply for housing as quickly as you want, something that the Fed cannot control. This affects price appreciation, and it's also important to note that some potential sellers may opt to not even sell or list their house in an effort not to be the last person trying to sell into the falling market. This would just hurt the existing supply shortages even more. It's making buyers who are experiencing FOMO or fear missing out very desperate. ARMs and adjustable rate mortgages are becoming more and more popular as they're offering lower rates on a fixed term. But the problem is the terms are not very lengthy. Now, depending upon how long the Fed has to fight off inflation, the future is up in the air. And with that, an uncertain market spells high risk for future home buyers who opt for this matter. This also opens the door for more future foreclosures, as the average American may not be able to deal with the rising rates. And guess what? If there are more foreclosures, expect for more renters to hit the market and expect rents to go through the roof. In connection with this, an average American income uses up at least a third or roughly 31% of their wages just to pay for their mortgages. So just imagine what happens if those payments suddenly shoot up. It's already happening with the federal assistance for mortgages expiring last year. Roughly 34,000 properties faced foreclosures last month, and a staggering number that is very similar to the 47,000 US homes that faced the same rate phase as the March 2020 or the pandemic. That should come as no surprise, and landlords can afford to have an attorney. Most Americans are facing evictions cannot. The crash will certainly affect millions and millions of people, and if the housing market crashes amongst the many economic issues that have already been reported, the economy cannot be very far behind. The stimulus news that is connected to our housing issues. We have one from Memphis. Tennessee, and it's called the Pandemic Shelby County Rental and Utility Assistance Program. Applications have reopened until May 15th, and payments are still available. The assistance is available for those who are residing in Shelby County, Tennessee, and includes Arlington, Bullitt, Collierville, Germantown, Lakeland, Memphis, and Millington. You may be eligible if you or someone in your household had a financial loss due to the pandemic. Your past due and your rent or your utilities and your household income is under 80% of the country's median income. Proving your citizenship and social security number are not required. But earlier this year, emergency rental assistance have already helped 30,566 residents in Shelby County while providing $42.6 million in funds. You can apply by this website. And also payments will directly be routed to the Memphis Light, Gas, and Water Division for utility payments and landlords or tenants for rent. And the best part is how much you guys can receive. And as well as if you pass the application, your funding will be based on your need. There is no cap to the amount of the money that you can use to pay off, and households can actually receive up to a year's past due rent and utility assistance. And it's not just Memphis that's helping, as we have another initiative that will provide up to $30,000 in mortgage relief. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont recently launched a new program that intends to do the same as Memphis. As Governor Lamont said, quote, "The public health crisis that we've experienced over the last few years has had a significant impact on the ability of many homeowners to pay for the cost of your housing, which is why we are dedicating this funding to provide much needed support," end quote. The program will be backed by the Department of Housing and Housing Finance Authority using $123 million in federal pandemic relief. Money eligibility will be based on applicants that experienced financial challenges at the onset of the pandemic last January 21st, 2020. Household income must be equal to or less than 150% of the area median income. Make sure you check out that website for even more information. Almost one-third of U.S. workers make less than $15 per hour. That is according to new research from Oxfam Organization. Their report showed that 31.9% of U.S. workforce makes less than $15 an hour, and women, Black, and Hispanic workers are significantly more likely to earn low wages than white men. This is according to their report, but just look at these numbers. 40% working women earn less than $15 an hour compared to 25% of men in the workforce. 26% of white workers make less than $15 per hour compared to 46% of Hispanic workers and 47% of Black workers. More than a half and all working women of color make less than $15 per hour. It also matters where you work in the US. Apparently, Washington, D.C., the only jurisdiction whose minimum wage currently tops $15 an hour, least in all categories, with only 9% of its workforce earning under $15, including 13% of Black workers, 15% of Hispanic workers. The jurisdiction with the highest number of low-earning workers is Puerto Rico, where 76% of all workers make less than $15 per hour, and we're taking states on the top of the District of Columbia, Washington State, and California. Washington's minimum wage is sitting currently at $13.69 an hour. California is 13. Now on the other end of the list got Puerto Rico. They are joined by two of the poorest states in the union, Mississippi, where 45% of all workers make less than $15 an hour, and New Mexico, where 44% of all workers fail to meet the benchmark. I don't know what to tell you guys, except this Oxfam report also pushed for the Raise the Wage Act, which is the bill proposed by Representative Bobby Scott last year that increased the federal minimum wage included for tip workers, known as 201 Democratic sponsors in the House, but good luck getting it passed with Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema hanging out, not to mention 10 Republicans on top of that.